All right, guys, welcome to episode 55 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today I'm going to talk about an artist that I've referenced a few times in my previous videos, and this is a duo that I constantly am always checking up on Juno and searching for, and I'm even constantly going through their back catalog just to see if there's a track that I listened to before and maybe it didn't hit me right or I wasn't in the right mood. And that duo is Minilogue. I have been mispronouncing Minilogue's name as Minilogue for my entire life because I didn't know what the term Minilogue actually meant. And I found out recently that Minilogue is a combination of the word minimal, like minimal music, and the word dialogue, like an exchange of words. So the correct pronunciation is Minilogue, and Minilogue is composed of Marcus Henriksen and Sebastian Mueller. And these two guys are Scandinavian. They formed their duo in the year 2000, and they split up in 2013 and kind of went their own separate way and started their own solo careers. And they're both thriving, by the way. Minilogue is known for making long, epic, meditative, hypnotic tracks. They're very much an out in the woods, in touch with nature type, small footprint, no carbon footprint type image and aesthetic that they're putting out there. There's nothing really urban or city or congested or stressful about anything that these guys do. So they kind of have this this image in my mind of being like just creatures of the woodlands almost. And I think that they would actually be okay with that assumption. But if you've ever watched, there's a couple interviews of Minilogue on YouTube, and you can see all their gear. Like, these guys are serious gearheads. They've got synths, they've got drum machines, they've got effects, and they've got cables going every which way. And the sound that comes out when Marcus and Sebastian combine forces is some of the coolest, most unique sounding techno that you're ever going to hear in your life. So today I'm going to review 5 of my favorite Minilogue records. This is not an all-inclusive list. If you remember before, I've talked about a couple of their other tracks, specifically Inca. I'm not going to redo Inca in this episode. I'm gonna swerve away from Inca because I already touched it. But I will say, in case anybody's wondering at the end of the episode, where's Inca? I already talked about that in a previous clip. It was in my wacky minimal episode. So that being said, let me get into the first 5 titles that I'm going to talk about today. And first up is Mr. Mustafa. You got like this cool little elephant on here, and this is a 10-inch. It's a 10-inch on Minilogue's own label called Minilogue. And it's just a really nice, kind of thin 10-inch. I've talked about this before. I really try to avoid 10-inch vinyls, but in this case, I feel like it's okay. This doesn't bother me at all. The pressing turned out really nice, and it's just like it's got like a nice, slick, glossy look to it. The side I like on here is the B side, and I remember first hearing this. I was already in love with Minilogue by the time I tracked this vinyl down in 2008. I bought it the week that it came out. And I remember it had a very distinct but also low riding melody that sits in the background. It's a very understated melody. It's very twinkly and sparkly. And it's kind of juxtaposed with this UFO, alien abduction, Donata Dazzi space bass, like something that Mike Parker or Donata Dazzi would put in one of their like classic old school tracks. So you got that pulsing woo 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 like alien abduction sequence. And the nice soft melody just sitting in the background. And I always thought that the whole thing just worked out really nice. And it seems like kind of like an understated, underappreciated record. If you go and look on Discogs, I'm the only one that said anything about it. And maybe it kind of went under the radar. also three other 10-inch vinyls in this series that are good. There's Orgler, which is the one with the, it's like the blue little creature on the cover. There's Duisi, which is a weird meditation, almost like, it sounds like the guy that's doing the spoken word in there has severe OCD, it's kind of just a weird one. And then there's Jakarta, which has like a bird flying on the cover. So check out that whole Minilogue series on 10-inch. If you like this, you'll probably like one of the tracks on either of those three others that I just mentioned. The next one I'm going to talk about is not a Minilogue original, but it's a remix, and it's of Beat Pharmacy. Beat Pharmacy is Brendan Mahler. I mean, who doesn't love Brendan Mahler? If you guys love dub techno and that deep, classic 08, 09 dub techno sound, you would love anything Brendan Mahler did, so go back and check out his catalog. And here he's under his alias Beat Pharmacy, and Minilogue came in and did two remixes on this vinyl. They're both nice, but I'm going to talk about the Takism remix. Takism remix sounds like it was recorded at night in a canyon with tons of reverb, and I would say the most distinct part about it is you can hear Beat Pharmacy's like almost like sad wailing saxophone echoing off the canyon walls, and everything's just spacious and sounds are coming back to you. And it also has a really nice drop that I'm going to include in the sample here. When Minilogue does a drop, it's not your classic snare build and hiss and then it drops. When Minilogue does a drop, they take the bass out, they take the bass line out, so there's no kick, no bass line. They lull you with a melody, and then out of nowhere, bass line and kick come back in. And it's this very subdued yet satisfying type drop that only Minilogue, I feel, can really pull that off. Check this out, and this is easy to get vinyl. Some of the Minilogue vinyls are, I would say 30, 40, 50 bucks, depending on which ones you're trying to track down. And this one's still a cheapie, maybe a little bit underappreciated. Or maybe it is appreciated, but supply and demand, you never know. But I think this is a really top-notch vinyl and something I will never get rid of. The next one I'm gonna show for you guys is this one here, and this one is a little bit pricey. This is Minilogue's Endlessness release, and the label that it's on is called Make a Beautiful Corpse, which is kind of a morbid but strangely uplifting concept, to make a beautiful corpse. I mean, I think what they're trying to say there is live a beautiful life, right? So that when you're dead, even your death is beautiful. I'm gonna say that that's what they were going for there. The track that I like, actually I like both tracks on here. Endlessness is a really nice techie number and really one of Minilogue's best tracks, but I thought it would be more entertaining and interesting to talk about In a Loving Place. In a Loving Place is on the B side, and In a Loving Place kind of has like a tech house-ish beat, but the most distinct thing about it is the spoken word that appears maybe 3 to 4 minutes into the track, and it's very interesting. There's a woman that is telling a story about, she took some substance in the morning one day, and she had some trip where she started interacting with aliens and UFOs from, in other places in the universe. And it was just really interesting to hear this very just soft-sounding woman's voice describing this trip experience that she had. And the icing on the cake is that she says later in the day, I was a chaperone on a field trip and I was looking at the world from this whole other perspective. So you really have to question the judgment of somebody that would take any hallucinogen before they were about to chaperone a field trip. So maybe that disqualifies her there as being a credible source. But that being said, it's a funny, kind of entertaining, interesting monologue to listen to. And honestly, it sounds like it's real. It sounds like it came from a real excerpt that Minilogue found somewhere. So I'm gonna say that it's real, and it's just, check it out and let me know if you guys think it's funny as well.
It was such a profound experience to have been out there in deep space. And I'm not the kind of person that would have expected this kind of experience. I mean, I would have expected, if someone were to tell me you're going to take this drug that's going to launch your consciousness, I would have expected that I would see angels and fairies and not alien life forms. I have no interest in it. That's not part of, I've never liked science fiction. I've never been into any of those kinds of things. It's not part of any sphere of interest, but to be out there with these other life forms, this greater intelligence, was absolutely astonishing. And then later in the day, this was first thing in the morning, and then later in the day, I had to be the chaperone on the first grade field trip for my son, and I'm looking at the whole world from this different perspective. I have been out in the universe.
Okay, and now we are on our fourth pick, and this came out on Cocoon in 2013. And who wasn't happy to see Minilogue release a double vinyl album? It was their second album ever. Their first one was Jamaica, which was pretty like funky and weird and cool. And this one's awesome here. The track that stole the show and that really got my attention was the B1, and I'm just gonna call it Atoms with Curiosity, but it's actually this whole thing. Atoms with Curiosity that looks at itself and wonders why it wonders. Some kind of self-referencing meta thing to get lost in with your brain. But this captures, I think, the essence of the Minilogue. I'm out in the woods and fairies are flying around and there's pixie dust in the air. It does, after it drops, go into a little bit darker territory. So I picture this as being like an evening, but not dark, dusk type track. And it just absolutely is the show stealer, showstopper on this vinyl. This one got a little pricey too, and rightfully so. I mean, it's just a stunning album, and Minilogue has really built up a cult following over the years. So, as time goes on, these things are just slowly getting pulled off the shelf, and the market got a little tight. So you're probably going to pay 50 or 60 for one of these. I will say they did repress this, so maybe they'll repress it again. There was a repress, I would say 2 years after it came out. And I only know that because my original one warped, and I was lucky enough to buy a repress there. But okay, and my fifth and last vinyl is also the last Minilogue single that Minilogue released, and this came out in 2014. The track that I'm gonna point you to on here is called Nothing Is Lost, and it was a live recording that was done at Unit in Tokyo. I guess Unit's a club or a party And this is a 14-minute Minilogue jam session, and it has a very distinct melody in it that almost sounds like very much with a dark edge, something that sounds like the Twilight Zone melody, but with a slight bit more complexity added to it. And really long and drawn out, subtle. You could long mix the heck out of this. I have mixed this track for 3 or 4 minutes coming in and out of it, so you can really take your time. You can dial in your pitch on your turntables and make sure you've absolutely got it right. But really just class act here, and I'm glad that this is the last one that they released together because it turned out great. The other side is nice as well. So you can still get this for $10. I just saw it on Discogs earlier today. All right, that's all for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite Minilogue picks are. You know, give me some recommendations because, like I said, their catalog is so deep. I haven't actually gone through all of it, and maybe there's some ones that you have played out before. Let me know like what's good, what's hot, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you so much, and thank you, Minilogue, Sebastian and Marcus. I really appreciate all your tunes, and I'm always keeping up with you. I saw, you know, you got your aliases, you got the Wah Woo Way coming out, so I'm always on top of it, and I really appreciate what you do. Thank you, and take care. Peace. All right, guys, welcome. All right, guys, welcome.